Hey guys, before we start off this video, I'd like to apologize for the lack of content lately as I've been busy with school. I'll be releasing quality SCP content on a weekly basis from here on, so stay tuned. I've improved my recording and editing software, so this video is a step up from my previous one. As many fans familiar with the SCP Foundation know, the organization revolves around secrecy in order to act efficiently. The Foundation operates under many front businesses to achieve their goals without public interference. The Broken Masquerade timeline is an interesting example of the Foundation failing to maintain the veil of secrecy. Please note that the Broken Masquerade is just one of many timelines of the SCP universe, as there's no one true canon. With that in mind, let's begin. In the SCP universe, members of the public end up coming into contact with anomalies. This is inevitable. The Foundation, however, finds ways to cover up these happenings and ensure civilian witnesses don't communicate their findings, whether it be through use of amnestics or just making them disappear. But what happens when an event so cataclysmic in proportion that it can't possibly be covered up occurs? The events of the Broken Masquerade timeline start off with an anomalous occurrence in North Korea. To sum it up for you guys, Korea suddenly disappears, leaving a gaping hole in its place. Shortly after North Korea's disappearance, the Global Occult Coalition comes into the light, exposing themselves and the Foundation, and then blaming North Korea's disappearance on the Foundation. For those of you who don't know what the Global Occult Coalition is, it is an organization regulated by the United Nations and is similar in many ways to the SCP Foundation, but far more ruthless in its tactics. If you want a detailed video on the GOC, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, the Coalition demands that the high-ranking officials of the Foundation be brought in for a trial regulated by the International Courts of Justice. In response, the Foundation hacks into television networks worldwide to release an official statement. In the statement, the Foundation accepts responsibility for North Korea's disappearance, but also claims that the country is only spatially displaced somewhere else, though they can't say for sure where or whether the civilians survived. The Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition were supposedly working together to prevent an end-of-world scenario, which they did. However, North Korea got lost in the process. Now, while the displacement of North Korea kicked off the Broken Masquerade, there was one other event that contributed to it as well. After the SCP Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition's existence were known to the public, a series of Foundation files were leaked to the internet. It was really never specified how the Foundation is unable to prevent this, as they're pretty much the most secure and secretive organization in the world. Following this leak, journalists, investigators, conspiracy theorists, and civilians alike all began poking their noses into the world of the anomalous. Relief efforts are conducted in the area around where North Korea used to be, with many bodies popping up in the oceans and seas. Amidst all of the chaos, the SCP Foundation still continues their work, which in some sense has become easier. They don't have to worry so much about secrecy and can instead focus on their goals. Images and reports of various different anomalies are published in the newspapers, with some safe class anomalies being transferred out of SCP custody and into government-specific facilities. People of all sorts are digging into Foundation business, many of them discovering information they'd rather unlearn. The Ethics Committee is brought under heavy scrutiny by the international courts, though they quickly realize that it's for the best that the Foundation continues to operate the way they did before. Russia and the United States are both interested in these anomalies, hoping to weaponize them despite accords and other laws being drafted to prevent this. The Chaos Insurgency, armed with new information about Foundation facilities and anomalies in custody, begin a spree of attacks. Over time, the anomalous become a regularity. To an extent, of course. The Foundation continues to contain dangerous anomalies, however safer anomalies begin to integrate into society. Marshall Carter and Dark boom in business, selling all sorts of crazy anomalies to the public, such as flying dogs. The Foundation's Department of External Affairs use these anomalies to boost their public image, posting videos of cute anomalies online. Activists begin advocating and protesting for the rights of the Foundation personnel, specifically Class D, the human guinea pigs. While some of this activism was based on factual evidence, most of it was simply highly charged emotion towards the SCP Foundation. The Foundation is able to make the international courts and other officials see the purpose of their brutal tactics and containment efforts, though they know convincing the public would take time. I will end today's video with an excerpt from the Broken Masquerade Hub, the link to which you'll find in the description below.
I'm just saying that it was the right thing to do at the time. It might not be the right thing to do now. It might not be the right thing to do again for quite some time. But right then, it was the right thing to do.
Are you saying, Mr. Clef...
That's Doctor.
Apologies, Doctor. Are you saying, Dr. Clef, that these people deserve to die?
Not at all, Oprah. I'm saying that, at the time, we had no other choice if we wanted to understand how this device worked. Through that understanding, we were able to hide the object from the public and preserve more people's lives than were lost.
The good of the many, Dr. Clef?
The good of the many, Oprah.
And now that the veil of secrecy has been lifted?
We do things differently, but we still have to do things, have to study.
But why, Doctor?
Korea.